Hey coaches, if you're running the diamond press and your team just keeps getting beat, or maybe you plan on running the diamond press and you don't want to get beat, I want to go over 3 things today in this video to help keep you from getting beat on the diamond press. I'm going to talk about 3 things. Number 1, I'm going to talk about key positions and kind of the responsibilities of each player. Number 2, I'm going to talk about trapping and forcing bad decisions, because ultimately any press is designed to do that. And then I'm going to talk about just preventing the breakdown of your diamond press and like stop getting beat, what to do if it happens, and how to prepare your players for the inevitable of it, just simply being beat, which is going to happen. You're going to have some beat, you're just going to get broken down. So first things first, your key positions and responsibilities. I think most of us know, if not, the diamond press looks like this, right? We have a player here, which is going to be like kind of our, initial player. And then you have your 2 wing players here. And then you have, your back, in which, if you take a look at it, this is a diamond, right? And then the last player that you have, we're going to call that person a safety, and that person's going to play there. And so each person's role is critical in here. And the way I like to break it down for my players is that while you're doing this thing, you're going to have essentially 3 different roles. There's going to be 2 players that are going to be considered trappers. Their job is to trap. And then there's going to be 2 players that are going to be considered interceptors. Their job is to intercept passes. And these 2 roles will change throughout the press as you guys are moving the ball down the court and the ball's rotated. So whoever's trapping right now might turn into an interceptor if the ball gets reversed from, say, this side of the court to this side of the court. And that's something that our players need to understand. So that's essentially what you got to do. And then this last player up top, their job, and I always tell my players that one person, they can help with intercepting and anticipating passes, and I'll show you how to incorporate that, but they also need to be prepared to be the safety, to keep a team from breaking us down and scoring an easy layup. That's what we don't want in this press or any press. The player that's going to probably initiate this thing, I think I mentioned it earlier, is this player right here. And I like to use, you can really use a 1 or a 4. I used to use my 4 here a lot because he was tall, but he was athletic. But he probably could have played a point guard too, so a point guard would work as well. But this is the player that you want to be big and just fast and really discourage the ball from going anywhere other than where you want it, which is always going to be right in the corner there on the strong side. So if the ball's being inbounded here, that's where you want it. And really this player is going to start off as a trapper, right? Like he, and depending on how you set your diamond press up, this person could immediately try and trap like right here in this spot. Or what I like to do is I like to let the ball get in here, and then these 2 become trappers and start hurting the ball handler into that sideline. So now that we know what the roles and responsibilities are for each player, I want to jump in now and start talking about trapping and forcing bad decisions. I think the ultimate goal of a diamond press is to force bad decisions, so that's our next step. But before I jump into that, I do want to make a quick pitch. I have a PDF, an ebook, if you will, that I want you to check out. There's a link to it in the description box below. Right now, the price is set for, I think, $9.99. It's pretty cheap. You can print this thing out. You can put it on your iPad or your phone, and you can bring it to practice and use it as just a memory jogger. But that's there for you if you just want a little bit more information. So moving along into trapping and forcing bad decisions. The best spots really to trap on a diamond press are, this corner here, depending on where the ball is. Or you could, get them up on the sideline, which is really where I go. That sideline is is really, you could have 2 trappers there, and it turns into really 3 defenders because you got the sideline that will count as your that will count as a defender for you, right? The player won't be able to go over on the other side. So I do want to emphasize here, though, that when your defenders are setting up their trap, you need to make sure that their positioning is accurate. You want your players to angle their bodies in a manner that will keep the offensive player or the ball handler from being able to skirt around them. So, for instance, that player that we were using here as the 4 or the 1. So the angle of the player should be, kind of facing the sideline, so to speak. So if you have your ball handler here, this player should not be too close. This player should actually be more up here because the direction of travel for the ball handler is that way. So this player wants to kind of corral the player into an imaginary area. And remember we said there's 2 trappers and 2 interceptors. So the other trapper, which is really just this wing player, is now coming over here and angling his or her body up here. Now, one thing that I'll tell you, this is a really difficult thing for players to do that haven't been taught. They need to get their foot up on this line, not over it. I mean, they can go over it, but they want to be able to trap, because some players, they're going to be reckless or they'll try and just like break right down the sideline if you give them that opening. So don't give them that opening. Put your foot on that line so they have to step around it to get out, which will, force a turnover because they'll step out of bounds. So the angling is super important. I'll teach players, I'll see some players that will just like angle their body here, especially players that don't have, I don't know if you can see that. My markers are having a hard time today, but they'll blade their body to allow them to just go right through. And that's not good for what we're trying to do. And I think a reason a lot of the kids do this is because they're so used to just doing things by themselves. They think that they're just gonna, blade their body and corral themselves into that sideline instead of working together as a team and just get their leg and just have their defensive stance flat against them, and then working together with this player. I do have some other videos where I kind of teach the 2 players to set up a trap together as a team, and it's drilled in practice where you're just constantly working on that one concept to get this down right. But that's essentially what I mean by using using the right angles. So another thing I'll tell you is, and I got 3 notes here. All of the players need to have active hands. The 2 trappers, if they're just standing there, not moving those hands and getting their, hands in the eyes and in the passing lanes, it's going to be less of a deterrent. The offensive player may just pass right out of the trap. But if the hands are up and they're moving around, the offensive player is going to think twice about passing the ball right into the defensive player's hands. And that's why active hands are so important. When you move over to the interceptors, they need to have active hands as well. They also need to have active feet. They need to be able to move around, especially these 2 trappers, to discourage the offensive ball handler from passing the ball. And I do want to point out one thing. When I showed you where everybody sets up earlier, it was in the shape of a diamond. We rotated over to where the ball is at, and look, everybody's still in a diamond shape. We need to have those active hands and active feet, and that's one way that's going to help you keep from getting beat on your diamond defensive press. And then, the last point that I said I was going to talk about today is just how to prevent this thing from being broken down, and then what to do to stop getting beat. So some common mistakes that I see are overcommitting, okay? And I really see the overcommitting a lot right here, when this player switches over to try and trap the player, I'll see them overcommit and just get right up on them. And if you don't have two trappers working together, what'll end up happening is they overcommit and they get beat, and now it just becomes a dribbling drill for the offensive player just to go around the defense, and that's what you don't want. So I tell my players, and the same thing can happen here. This player can overcommit and get right up on them. And I do think that committing to it and getting on them and trapping them is a good key strategy. But I oftentimes like these two to work together nice and slow to make it happen. If you're going for the fast trap, get in there, get them done, then of course overcommitting is good. It's actually not overcommitting, it's committing together to trap and put pressure on them. But make sure that both players know what we're doing in this scenario. The other thing is slow rotations. This is huge, because if these two trappers are trapping the offensive player, the wing player and the other, the not the safety, but the back end of this, they need to make sure that they rotate, because what happens is if you have these two that set up their trap and they're effectively getting ready to trap, but nobody comes over to act as an interceptor or a deterrent for this player, the ball will just get past that player. So everybody has to work in concert. Well, actually, let me show you this so that you can see. These two should already be moving over, right? And they become what? What do they become? They become trappers. So now you have two interceptors. You have two trappers and two interceptors, and then they move and you're good to go. Now, rotations, okay? What's gonna happen? The ball's gonna be passed. This person will probably be here, but I don't know if you can see it with the blue. I don't like this color marker, but my other one died on me. So they've got to be able to, this one starts dribbling this way. These guys have got to be able to rotate quick, okay? So what I tell my players to do in this scenario is, remember, these two have already moved over at this point. Now you have your two trappers here. Immediately, what's happening, this person is a wing player that was here earlier. This person is coming over. I don't want them cutting in here because they're moving in a direction that's going to get beat by the player that's just going to dribble this way. What they want to do is they want to run over to be able to get to that sideline, to stop them at the sideline. My 4 or my 1, depending on what I'm using here, they're moving from here, and they're not going in, they're going out. And their job is just to get them to the sideline, and their job is to break the sideline. So that's the other thing too. And of course, my other trapper is doing the same thing, but coming up here to become, or actually, I'm sorry, right about here to help with, to set that diamond up. And this player is coming here. So now you have your setup. Whoops. So 1, 2, these are here, and this one's going over here. So now you have your diamond set up here, and then of course your safety is also moving over. So rotating is super important as well. And I'll probably make this video using the app that I like to use just to be a little bit more, but I wanted to kind of get a little personal on video here with you. And another thing too is just bad spacing, right? Like, we want to have, good spacing, not bad spacing. We want to have everybody together in the right spot so that we can either be a trapper or interceptor. And when I'm coaching my players on this in practice, I'm telling them, like, if you're a trapper, you're yelling trap, 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 trap. If you're an interceptor, 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 interceptor. So that they know what their roles are and they know what they're out there to do. And then of course, we can't be successful every single time on a press. It's going to get broken down. You just need to have a standard thing that you want your players to do. Do you want them to jump on man? Do you want them to jump into a 2-3 or 3-2 zone or any zone? I do a couple different things, but I think the easiest thing, if this is new to you, is just tell your players drop into a 2-3 zone, but always have that safety cover down on the on any easy layups. Like, that's the first thing, and then we can recover. And this is probably going to be your big kid anyway. It's going to be your 5. So if you send your 5 right to the hole, that's where he's going to be on a 2-3 zone, and the other two. The big men can just fall into place, and then the wings can fall into place. But they have to know that if it's broken, that they yell broken, and then they just get back and they go. And how do you know when you're broken? Well, if your trappers aren't effective at holding them down, then you're broken. Just fall back in. And me as a coach, I'm standing on the sideline saying, hey, we're done. Get back, fall back, go zone, go 2-3, go 3-2, whatever it is. Listen, folks, I hope that this video helped you out. It's designed to just keep you from and reinforcing what the diamond press is all about. I don't want you to get beat on this thing, and if you do, I want you to know how to recover and salvage your defense and keep the other team from scoring. I mentioned earlier that I have the ebook, the Coach's Guide to the Diamond Press. Take a look at it, see if you like it. Pay for it if you want. If not, I make a lot of videos on this. I'm sure you can learn how to effectively incorporate this into your practice. But if you want something to print out and bring to practice as kind of a guide, I think that's a great idea. As always, like the video, subscribe, and I'll start putting more content out there like this. Thank you.